gonna say this. So I hear a lot of people say, I'm gonna think my goals and dreams. I'm not gonna share. I'm gonna keep them quiet, move in silence. Okay, cool.
Execute in silence.
Yeah, execute in silence. I'm gonna do everything in silence. Well, that's awesome. But I think when you say them out loud, not only do you put it out to God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, not only are you claiming it, like, hey, I'm gonna do this. Now that's pressure when you say it out loud.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna become a financially successful by this age, and everybody hears it. You're like, oh, I gotta do it now. I just told my lady. I just told my kids. I just told my brothers. That's pressure.
Welcome back to another episode of High Value Discussions, the show that brings you face to face with today's outliers. We are honored to learn from a financial educator who's not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. He is a man who's turned the complex world of finance into his personal playground. He is a force of nature in the life insurance industry, a visionary agency owner, and a mentor who's lighting the path for the next generation of entrepreneurs. From the streets to the boardrooms, he is breaking down barriers and building bridges to financial literacy. In this episode, we're peeling back the curtain on his journey. We'll explore how he built his empire from the ground up, the lessons he has learned along the way, and the strategies he uses to stay ahead in a cutthroat industry. Whether you're in the beginning phase or a seasoned professional, my guest insights will challenge your thinking and inspire you to take action. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Alonso Torres.
So when you're born in Mexico, I mean, you have the families that are extremely poor. You have the ones that are poor, and then you have the ones that are okay, and then of course you have the wealthy. And I think it's not just in Mexico, it's everywhere. But we were the ones that struggled financially. Every 8 months, 9 months, when the lease was up, we would move apartment to apartment. Sometimes we had to work to live. Sometimes we didn't. I grew up with a single mom. 2 older brothers. I had, tough love. So I know what that is like. It's pretty awesome. But I grew up with 2 older brothers, single mom, and that was our lifestyle. Sometimes we had what to eat. Sometimes we didn't. One of the things that I remember very specifically is, I don't know if you go to gas stations and you find the little bimbo, the little conchas, right? The white ones and the black ones and the chocolate ones, right? And we used to like cut it into pieces just so we could, share and have something to eat. That's how, my upbringing was. And a lot of people don't know that. And a lot of people are like, hey, you think you're all, I'm like, no, like I remember exactly where I was at just a few years ago. And, that was my upbringing. Eventually, when I was 12, my mom ended up getting sick. I was around 11, 12. The memory is a little bit blurry, but I was around 10, 11, 12. She got sick, lost battle. She was 42, 43 years old, very, very young. And she lost the battle, but before she passed away, she told my older brothers, she told us, hey, if anything ever happens, I want you guys to go to America. I want you guys to go to the United States because it's the land of opportunities. Like, everybody comes here because it's the greatest country. It's the land of opportunities, right? I think we can all agree on that. And that's what we did. We had an aunt in Bakersfield. I don't know if you know Bakersfield, Central Valley, right? We had an aunt there that, took us in for a year. And some things went south. My brother had to move out. Eventually, I ended up moving out after like a year and a half, 2 years. I ended up moving out with him, and but we're really thankful for her and the opportunity that she gave us. And when we were in Bakersfield, I saw my brothers, get 2 jobs. They worked at Chipotle, Subway, whatever. We have to make money, and that's what I saw. But let me take you a little bit back. A lot of people ask me, hey, like, what kind of example did you have growing up? And the only example I had from my mom is I would see her leave early in the morning, 8 and probably 7, 6 in the morning to take the bus to the border so she could cross to America legally, of course, every single day, because she tried to do sales out here. She tried to do real estate, water filters, Mary Kay. I don't know if you remember
yeah.
Mary Kay, right? And so I saw that work ethic of leaving super early and coming back when it was dark. You know, that was my upbringing. That was my lifestyle. But that's a little bit about back in the good old days of
Yeah.
Mexico, right? But I'm super thankful for everything that happened. Everything happens for a reason. That's one of my philosophies that I came to peace with, and it has allowed me to be happy that everything happens for a reason. You don't understand it right now, but eventually you will. And we don't know when eventually is, right? Yeah.
You know, I was talking to my brother about this quite recently, how we were watching fights on TV, and we were going based on upbringings from both people. One fighter had a really bad upbringing, very tough. You know, he had to really like mold his way up into the grits. The other one, he came from wealth. Very different upbringings.
Very different.
So I was telling him I would always bet on the guy who had a very, very hard upbringing.
Yeah.
The people who had kind of easy, you know, having steak from breakfast, lunch, and dinner, different lifestyle, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But the people who had to share pieces at the gas station when it comes to those little snacks, that's a different life, man. And for you to be able to conquer that and then mold yourself to the person you are now, it's different. You know what I mean? That's why I feel like you walk with that certain confidence, brother, because you know what it's like back then and you change that trajectory.
Yeah.
When did you decide at what age that you had to make a change? Because honestly, there's always that one person in the family, or there's a couple of people in the family who changed the trajectory of their family and their bloodline.
Absolutely.
What age was it for you when that happened?
That's a great question. Well, you know, growing up in Mexico, you see movies of, you know, American movies, The Transporter, one of my favorite ones growing
Jason
up.
Statham.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I would see that lifestyle. And as a little kid, I'm dreaming. I'm like, maybe one day, you know, we're broke as heck. Like, you know, there's barely any food. But on the other hand, my mind is like dreaming. I'm like, maybe one day I can drive. Maybe one day I can look like him. Maybe one day I can dress like him. And so that was always in my mind as a little kid. I didn't realize what it was until probably I was a teenager. I was like 15, 16 years old. My grades I've never been good in school. I never been good. You take me back in Mexico, I was not good in Mexico, in school in Mexico. Absolutely not. You take me to here, of course, I didn't know the language. So, you know, it's not like I did great, but honestly, sitting down and being like in class was not my thing. And so I struggled with school. But my oldest brother, he would tell me, hey, if you don't go to school, you're not going to do much in life. Like, you're going to work, you know, like not at a great places. And so, you know, being told that, and then all my family being kind of good at school, I'm like, shoot, I don't want to end up bad, you know. And then at the age of 15, I found a mentor. One of my friends, my best friend at that time, he said, hey, I found some work after school. We can make $30 a day for 2-3 hours, you know, and we can buy ourselves the clothes and food and things like that for school. And I'm like, I'm in. Tell me about it, right? And so then I started working at this place, fixing up halls for weddings, quinceañeras, you name it. I was the guy putting the tablecloths and things like that, putting it together. And I got really close with him. I got, you know, like eventually I got close with him, and he started teaching me about business. And I would sit in the back, like when he would get on his computer in his office, I would sit in the back or stand in the back, and I would see him log into his bank accounts, transfer money. I would see 6 figures. And then I saw that he had multiple houses, and of course, his business was successful. Everybody knew him in town. And I'm like, tell me, like, how did you do it? Did you go to school and get good grades and get a degree like my brother's telling me? Like, what's the secret? I was really serious about it. He's like, to be honest, I didn't even graduate middle school. And I'm like, what do you mean? That goes against everything I've been told, you know, like my whole upbringing. They're saying, yeah, I got to get good grades. And you're telling me you didn't even finish middle school and you're extremely successful. You're more successful than anybody in my family financially. I said, okay, something's not adding up. And so I'm like, okay, so then what did you do? And he's like, I got into sales. I'm like, okay, like what kind of sales? Was it great sales? He's like, just any type of sales. He told me he would do water filters as well. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should get into sales. And then I would take, you know, we would buy merchandise in LA for his business. And I would see these skyscrapers with last names on them. Like, what's it called? Like Chase Bank, for example, or blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, who the heck owns that? I know somebody owns it. And so I would go on Google and start searching all these last names. I'm like, oh, is this person? Oh, wow. I'm like, what do they do they did go to school? They start a business. And so that's when my mind started expanding. First, it started with him. And then I would go to LA, see these skyscrapers. And I'm like, one day I want to own a building like this. I want my last name in one of those. And so I think it started around the age of 15, 16. I wanted to take you down that path because I know it started with movies. It started with movies in school in Mexico when I was a kid. Yeah. But I was able to understand it when I was around 15, 16. What is it that I was dreaming about? I was dreaming about a better life, you know, the life that I saw in movies. So I hope that answered the question.
Brother, we relate so well, man, because that's how it was for me too. Like me, I was growing up on Batman, Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
wearing the suits and then beating ass at night. You know what I mean?
Nice cars, rich, owning a building, and it fits. Yeah, absolutely, man. Bruce Wayne.
And then honestly, you know what's so funny about the whole world of sales is in this day and age, I feel like there's such a big negative connotation of that. And then I had a female approach me. She didn't know how to sell her program. She was like this fitness trainer, and she didn't know how to sell her program. She was like, it feels gross. I was like, it's only gross if it's not valuable. I was like, if you feel confident in what you're producing, you should have no problem in describing it and putting it out there. So, but the outside world, people view salesmen as like a car salesman or so on and so forth. Oh, they're just going to give me a really crappy car, etc. But why do you think people have a negative connotation towards sales?
Well, I think it's like anything else is there's good and bad. There's bad apples and there's good apples. But, you know, I think you hear Patrick Bet-David, you know about Patrick Bet-David, right? He talks about bad news sell faster. You say bad news, it travels faster across the world and it sells. Like all the news channels, it's all bad news. People are addicted to that, right? And so the good news is we hardly talk about it. We hardly see it because people don't market it as well. And so when it comes down to bad salespeople, the word travels faster. And so we don't talk about the good experience. Oh, that person, we don't really talk about it. Oh, when I bought my car, what a great experience. That car, so like it could happen. It does happen. I know some great car salespeople. It can happen. The people that have hooked me up with my cars and in the past, great experiences, world-class experiences. But people don't talk about them enough. Is the people that had bad experiences that talk more about it, I guess. They put the bad reviews, right? Yeah. People don't go and put good reviews. When's the last time you bought this water and what a great water? We just don't take the time out of our day to do that. It's just the people with bad experiences do. And so I think that's what happens.
And I wanted to also go back into sales. What was it like for you in the introduction phase of it? Like, did you have a hard process? Is it hard adapting to it?
Yeah, man. Honestly, that's a great question. So when it comes down to sales, can I put?
Of course, man. Anytime.
So I got introduced to sales because of that business owner. So I told him, I want to get into sales. I want to get into business. I want to live a life like you. You know, like if there's somebody's advice that I want to listen to, is somebody that is living the life that I want. And so I'm like, what should I do? He said, well, you should get into sales. I said, well, how can I get into sales? And at that time, I had an uncle. He still does it. He would buy cars in Vegas in the auctions, big auctions, where all the dealerships travel to. The biggest auction, I think, in West Coast. And he buys cars, takes them to Mexico, of course, all legally, sells them over there at dealerships. And so one of the things came to my mind, I'm like, what if I get in with him, buy some cars, come back to Cali and sell them? And that's what I started doing. I started buying and selling cars. But honestly, buying and selling cars or selling cars overall, I think is one of the easiest type of sales that you can get into because people are approaching you. People want what you have. And when people want what you have is the easiest thing ever. Like, yeah, you want the water, I'll sell it to you, you know?
You look thirsty.
Exactly. You kind of look thirsty. You want the water? Yeah. Okay, perfect. It's not like... it's not that hard to sell cars, I think, you know, hopefully I don't, you know, get controversial with all the salespeople, but people were coming to me when I was buying and selling cars and they would try to negotiate it. And at first, you know, honestly, like I'll take you a little bit before my sales. I was a little bit shy. I was, you know, I was the quiet person in the back, listening, paying attention, learning. I wasn't the one speaking like right now. I didn't have that confidence yet. And I was a little bit more on the shy side. So when people would try to, you know, negotiate and take the price down a lot, I would kind of find it hard to be like, no, this is what it is. I was new into the area, and so a lot of the times I broke even. Of course, I made great deals. I made some bad deals as well. But the process of me getting into car sales was probably the easiest because people came to me. They were searching it. And all I said is, hey, it drives. Look, it is as you see it. That's what it is. You can test drive it. You like it or not? Do you want it? You want to take it or not? And then they would tell me, yes, we'll take it. Oh, no, we won't. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And so transitioning into what was life insurance sales and retirement plans and things like that, that was tough because that's a whole different types of sales. Now when you're sitting with families, now you gotta make them aware of something like a possibility. Like, hey, what if something does happen to you? Now you have to paint the picture for them. You got to be like Picasso. One of my great friends, he says, that, hey, when you're in sales, you got to be like the Picasso. Like, you got to paint the picture. You got to let them know what it is. And so you got to make them aware that they need this service. Now, they're not coming to you all the time. Yeah, we have some clients that, hey, I need life insurance. Great. But sometimes you have to spark that awareness, that want, that need. And so that was tougher. That was tougher. I had to read a lot of books. I had to watch a lot of content on sales. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't overnight. And it took me probably to become great at what I do. I consider myself great at what I do. It probably took me 4 years, maybe 3 years, 4 years, to be quite honest. It wasn't overnight, but I feel great.
It's realistic that way, though. You know what I
It
mean?
is, man. It is. I mean, you want to be great at anything, you have to put in the work. Anything, soccer, baseball, chess,
everything,
everything. And so that was the reality for me.
I think that's the hardest part too, especially for the young people, or when people graduate college, etc. They expect to have that piece of paper or to start this business venture. I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow. It's like that's not the case. Like, great things take time.
Absolutely.
But I think that's one of the biggest things now, since everything is so instant. Everybody wants instant gratification. They don't have the ability to wait. They don't have the ability to be patient. And I feel like that's what's halting a lot of people's progress, because honestly, both of our backgrounds were kind of like, we shouldn't be where we're at. We shouldn't be, honestly, but we changed the trajectory. We just kind of molded things. Let me put this over here, add that over here. Okay. And I honestly feel like everybody can do great things. It's just more of like, say, guidance, mentorship.
Absolutely.
That's what they need. And just somebody to honestly be a realistic person to them, because I think there are people who just clap for you.
Yeah.
And there are actually people who will sit down with you and be very, very challenging to you. Like, say your mentor, you were speaking about him earlier. Yeah. How often do you seek for guidance and seek critiques from him?
Oh, that's great. So at this point in my life, this is one of the things I also learned is that at some points you graduate mentors. You graduate mentors, as tough as that sounds. You graduate mentors, and then you find other mentors that can take you to a higher level. And you should, it's on a weekly basis, daily basis, or when you feel like you're stuck, when you feel like, hey, I'm not leveling up, what do I have to do? Like, I'm facing this, or I had this certain situation with one of my associates, or whatever the case is. It's always good to try to process it, not for any little thing, of course. Has to be on the more important side. But I think, and I know that it's a very important thing to do right away when it's a major situation.
Yeah,
it is, because then you can save so much time and so many mistakes, and then you might say the wrong thing in that conversation that you're trying to give guidance in, and you might say all the wrong things, and you might end up in bad business. But because you got that mentorship, you ask, hey, how should I approach it? Well, say this and this and this. Now that conversation went super great, and you ended up doing business, or you ended up saving that relationship, or whatever that case is. So yeah, it's important.
Because like, everybody has that mentor and they stick with them forever. You know what I mean? Yeah. But graduating your mentor, dude, that's crazy, man. That's different. It's true though. It's so true.
I think about the maybe you had a mentor in high school. Maybe you had a mentor growing up as a kid, maybe in business. And so you graduate. It doesn't mean that you no longer take advice from it. It doesn't mean you cut ties with him. It just means that you don't need him as much in this chapter of your book.
Yeah.
But he's still a great friend. And, we talk
Yeah.
very often. But yeah.
Yeah, that's very true, especially when it's my athletic career. There was always coaches at every single phase of my
Yeah.
career, right? So even when when I lost 2 in a row, I said I need to make a dramatic change here, a very very big dramatic one, and it caused a lot of say frustration into those other coaches. They're like, why are you leaving? Like, what's going on? It's like I need to make a change and I need something different. It is no offense to you guys. It's just I need to level up in a different way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Isn't that crazy that sometimes you have to make, and they might take it the wrong way, but it's not about them. It's about you and your goals and your dreams and what you think is best for you.
Yeah.
And they don't have to accept it. They don't have to like it. It's your life, and, but it's needed. It's needed. Another thing that I learned from one of my good friends and mentors is that when a mentor gives you advice, you don't always have to agree with it. You don't always have to like it. You don't always have to do it. It just means listen, process it, see if it benefits you, see if it not, and go on with your life.
Yeah, agreed.
But that's another thing I learned. Yes.
And going back to life insurance, brother, when you were first diving into it, like educating yourself on that, what was probably one of the biggest things that kind of hit you like, man, people aren't using this, people are utilizing this? What was one of those things?
Well, number one, life insurance itself. Yeah, when you talk about life insurance in the Hispanic community, minority community, more than anything, the minorities, right? Latinos, like we don't talk about it, we don't think about it, and it's not until the moment that you need it that we're now talking about it. Hey, did so and so have life insurance? Let's look through let's find out, And sometimes I receive phone calls. Hey, I saw your business card in his wallet, and I see that you do life insurance. Did he get life? Unfortunately, he wanted to think about it. Unfortunately, he wanted to shop around. And that has happened, and it sucks, man. But life insurance is something that should be mandatory to get right away. Like you're born, get them life insurance. It's like we take out the car of the lots. It's you gotta have car insurance, and so I think life insurance should be that way. But number one, life insurance. When I learned what it can do in so many different areas. We're talking about estate taxes. We're talking about passing down generational wealth. We're talking about, of course, the basics, pay the funeral. We're talking about replacing your income for the next 10 years so your wife and kids can continue living the same lifestyle financially. They don't lose the house. They don't lose the cars. They don't go through that. Like, I'm like, wow, why are Latinos, why are people not talking more about it? How come we're not taught about this in school? That's number one. Number two is that the tax benefits. There's tax-free vehicles, right? And the life insurance aspect that people are not utilizing. And the wealthy and, the people that have a lot of money, they use them. They don't talk about them that often, but you hear certain individuals that are wealthy now, you're hearing more like Waka Flocka. I remember watching a video and he's talking about put $1 million in, pull $1 million in. I'm like, that's pretty awesome, Somebody that's famous talking about it, putting people on, putting them on basically on the service. And that was the second thing is just that there's ways to maximize your tax free or tax deferred options outside the traditional, outside what we hear, outside, we go to work and they offer us a 401k, 403b, all these accounts, and we take them because that's all we know. Oh, they're offering it. It must be great. And we take it and we never look into other areas. We never ask. Now with cell phones and everything we have, now it's like, hey, what about other vehicles of retirement? What about other, ways of maximizing my tax deferred options or tax free options, Yeah. But that would be the second.
Does that kind of make you scratch your head at times where it's like, guys, we've been waiting for too long. I think it's time to execute on this.
It does, man. It sucks. It's sad more than anything because when I go into these appointments, I either go to their house or they come to the office and I get to see their kids. And when they tell me, hey, let me process this, let me think about this. When they say, let me think about this, they're not going to think about it. They're not going to sit down and analyze other, options. They're not going to do that. They just say that in a way of like, get out, basically, like we're done. Or like, hey, I'm not ready yet. And people don't buy life insurance sometimes because they're not confident about it. They don't think they need it. They think it's too expensive. There's different reasons, right? But when people say that and they have kids, it's sad. It's sad, I mean, if you have family at all, it's sad because then if you don't have life insurance, who's gonna bury you? Who's gonna come out of their pocket? Whose savings are you gonna interrupt?
Yeah.
Whose mortgage are you gonna refinance? Like
Mm.
whose 401ks money are you gonna take out?
Yeah.
Or a lot of this. I mean, that's how that's how people come up with this kind of money. Or car washes, GoFundMe accounts, like. And the reality is, GoFundMe accounts, they don't work that well to come up with the funds that you need. And so it does make me scratch my head when they have family, they have kids, because I'm like, and I had a situation where I sat down with a couple, and they're like, we've been thinking about getting life insurance for the past 3 years, and I'm like, past 3 years? What do you mean? Why haven't you acted on it?
A lot can happen in a day.
Exactly. And they're like, yeah, it's been 3 years and we've been thinking about it. And I'm like, awesome. So like, let's not think about it no more. You're here. I'm here for a reason. Let's help you out. Well, let me think about it. Let me process it with my husband. Let me talk about it with my husband.
Dang, another 3 years.
2-3 months have passed by. I just called her last week and I'm like, hey, like, let's do something. Like, let's get you protected. Let me talk to my husband. I'm like, how does that make sense? You've been thinking about it for 3 years and you still want to think about it. How much longer? Until an illness happens, until a death happens. And that's sometimes what it takes. That's what it takes to make people realize, we're not immortal. Like we're not here for a long time. We're here, like, we're so sensitive. Life is so risky that we're not going to get out of life. That's the reality. Yeah. Life is so risky that we're not going to get out of life.
You know what's so strange, brother? Like, why do people wait for the last minute in anything? When it comes to their fitness, when it comes to their finances, when it comes to their retirement, everything. Why do people wait to the last minute on everything? It's very strange.
That's a great question. We're naturally lazy. We're naturally procrastinators. And we have to set up systems in our life to not make us lazy and procrastinators. Yeah. And so I think that's what it comes down to. We're naturally lazy. We're natural procrastinators. You leave it up to you probably won't do it. How long have you been saying, I'm going to start the diet, I'm going to start the gym, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get my finance? How long has it been since you actually taken action? Well, it's probably, we all kind of have those conversations December 31st, right? Yeah. Right before New Year's, like, we're going to make it happen. Here's 6 months later. Did you do it? Did you keep your word? How long did you keep it for? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month? How long were you excited for? So we're naturally procrastinators. We're naturally lazy. I think that's what it comes down to, our nature.
That's the hardest part, especially when it comes to like the health sector, where people are like, actually they find out they have a sickness and then they have to change up their diet. Now they have to exercise until it's too late.
Yeah. I heard of this from, I can't remember who, probably John Maxwell or somewhere. But one of the things that I learned is that people make decisions out of desperation or inspiration. Desperation, hey, like one of our offices received a call. And they're like, hey, I got cancer. Can I get life insurance? That was just a couple of days ago. I just got cancer. I got diagnosed with cancer. Can I get life insurance? Yeah. No, it's too late. There's no life insurance available for you. Yeah. That's desperation. Inspiration, I saw something great. I saw maybe even something sad. Somebody passed away. I don't want that to happen. Yeah. So those two moments in our life is what drives us to make decisions faster.
You honestly, personally have set yourself to a very high standard. You have touched success and it didn't come overnight. You actually had to put in the time and the work, honestly. And I congratulate and I salute you for that, brother. But honestly, bro, it's so funny. I've seen this from studying very successful people. I've done this within myself as well. How I made this mistake, how getting too high on the highs. Have you ever got to that point, or did you have a good environment to kind of keep you grounded?
That's awesome. Great Patrick David talks about that, right? Don't get too high on your highs, don't get too low on your lows. And I definitely haven't got too high on my highs because I had the environment, and I also had the mindset is like, I'm just getting started. Like, I tell that to myself. Whenever I have achieved anything, I'm just like, I have friends and family. Hey, let's celebrate. Let's take the weekend off. Hey, let's go have some shots, or like, and in my mind, I'm like, for what? Like, what are we celebrating? I'm just, and I know it's healthy as well. You hear all these research. It's healthy to also reward yourself, but don't overdo it. And for me, celebrating is like, okay, let's have the night off. Let's have a good time, but that's about it. I don't need a weekend to celebrate. So the great thing is that I had a good environment of, associates, people that I work with, that it's not an issue. But on the lows, I have gotten on the lows very low, where your own mind starts to act against you. And that's, I mean, if we cannot win the war within our mind, then how can we win the war outside? And I learned to control those voices. But I definitely been on my low end, but I've been low. It's hard to help it.
Yeah.
It's hard to help it. And so you have to really get good at controlling your thoughts. And, anytime anytime that you get a negative thought, flood it with positive thoughts. If you get one, do 7, 10. Because that's the actual equal, I guess, force. If you have one negative thought, it has a lot of force to balance it. You have to say 7 positive things to balance that negative thought.
Yeah.
And so, or 10, do 10, but the more the better. But that's, I had that situation. Yeah. Thankfully, not on the highs, not too high. I've been able to just feed my mind and be like, no, let's continue to the next.
Yeah. And I would consider us too to be very resilient, and moments of hardship will come. They will continue to come, honestly.
Absolutely.
Like tomorrow, next week, next month, 3 years, etc. They will come. But I think we've also built ourselves to be able to solve those problems, and we kind of like it in a little way because it kind of gives us fulfillment and purpose, you know?
It's fun.
And I've said this to somebody quite recently. I think life would be very boring if we didn't have puzzles to put together, right?
Absolutely.
So, and I think that's what's so great about entrepreneurs is they kind of use the hardship to their advantage. I'm like, okay, let me just fix this issue, put the pieces together, and move on. Yeah. Have you noticed that within yourself as well?
Yeah, it's you get the thrill, right? Putting things together, making it happen, overcoming it. It's fun, man. It's fun. There's enjoyment in that. It's a lot better than just living your life regularly. If you don't have these obstacles on a weekly basis, whatever the case is, then there's not much new in life, and so that kind of throws off your schedule. Like this morning, I was already put together, a suit and everything. Next thing I had to do some dirty work, I guess you could say. And I'm like, I got my pants dirty. I'm like, oh my God, but it's cool. As I'm looking at my pants and I'm like, I'm also like, no, it's fun. This is what this is what it's about. It's not gonna be perfect. Mornings are not gonna be perfect. And I think parents can agree with that more than anything. Mm-hmm. Wake up and you want it to be perfect. No, there's chaos. There's kids. There's water bottles being thrown, baby bottles, everything, right? Anyways.
And though going back to life insurance, brother, what's probably one of the best things about it and the hardest things about it?
Like number one, they trust you with their finances. They trust you with their legacy. Like that's what it is, man. Life insurance is a legacy. What's the legacy that you're leaving behind once you pass away? Are you leaving, what's going to be the memory, the last memory? Is it going to be a memory of struggle? Whether we like it or not, it can happen. Is it going to be a memory of struggle? Hey, when my dad passed away, when my brother passed away, we had no money, man. We had to do car washes, GoFundMe accounts, blah, blah. Are you going to leave that? There's nothing wrong with that. But what if you could, on the other side of the hand, right? What if you could leave a check? And that check it's up to you. Could be $100,000, $500,000, so they can buy a home, buy some buildings, some businesses. Maybe kids can go to college. Maybe your wife can continue paying off that house. So it's a whole legacy that, especially as men, like there's that pride of my family's taken care of. Like I'm doing everything possible. Not only am I putting food on the table, but if anything ever happens, I'm still going to put a food on the table because that's the kind of man I am. Yeah. And so it feels great when families get protected because those kids are going to be able to live an okay life even when the parents are gone, even if both parents are gone, or even if the husband, the dad is gone, or the wife, they're going to live an okay life financially at least. Because we know emotionally it's not going to be okay for a couple of years. I experienced that. My mom passed away. I was not okay emotionally. Yeah. But then my brothers, because they were older, I think the oldest was 22 at that time, 21. Second oldest was probably 15, 16. Financially, they felt it. Me, I was a kid. I was just like, I didn't have much to worry at that point. I knew I was aware, but they went through it. you know, and everything does happen for a reason. And you know, we wouldn't change it any other way. Like we would have it. But what if for other families we could do that? What if for other families they don't have to be homeless? What if for other families they can continue that dignity, that pride of like, no, we're okay. We don't need that pittiness, you know, like we're okay. So it feels great. The ugly is we're gonna think about it. I mean, you can't do much about it. You just move on. That's the ugly side of it is when people not turn you down because I mean, it's the service that they're turning down. They don't believe in it. You know, they can't afford it or whatever. I mean, everybody can afford life insurance. It's $15 a month, $20 a month, and we make sure they understand that. Hey, we cannot afford it. Like we can do we can do $10 a month. We can do it's just anything. Just get protected, even if it's $10,000 of coverage. Anything, man. Anything is better than nothing. You know, small contributions on a monthly basis is better than a whole lump sum out of nowhere. You know, and one day you got to come up with 20,000. I think I heard here in Silicon Valley is like $40,000 for an average funeral.
Yeah.
Who has that kind of money just ready for a funeral expense? Yeah, they have that kind of money to buy a home, to maybe retire, use it as a retirement fund, and you know, and so yeah, that's the ugly side of it.
Brother, you said something earlier, like, you know, you lost your mom at such a young age, but you were also raised by your mother. And for you, you carry the responsibility of a man with like you're proud of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you love it and it oozes out of you. You know, like that glow is just like, you know, you're a man's man and you embrace that, every bit of that. I'm very shocked that you didn't have that male figure in your life when you were growing up, though. Did you kind of use your older brothers, or did you have an uncle or somebody else, a mentor or somebody you read, or an athlete? Who did you look up to when you were younger?
That's a great question. You gave me the chills. You know, questions that haven't been asked before. Male models. I mean, I looked up to my brothers a little bit because they were manly, and I was a kid at that time. I'm like, when I grow up, I want to have that kind of body, you know. But as far as being a man's man, other than movies, honestly, like Bruce Wayne, you know, Batman. Like when I would watch those movies, I'm like, I want to be like that. When I watch the Transport, I want to be like that. You know, from the details that they put in the movies, like opening the door for the lady, dressing sharp, being fit, being clean, driving a nice car, having a nice home. And so I got a lot of my vision, motivation, you know, from movies. I would get inspired. I would see the guys work out like they had a heartbreak, you know, in movies. They had a heartbreak or something went really bad and they started working out and they overcame that situation. Like the Gladiator, you know, what happened in the Gladiator, like family wise, like that's terrible. But then at the end, he had that kind of moment where he redeemed himself or he got, you know, kind of what he wanted. And so those are the things that inspired me. Of course, I had, you know, uncles, tios, very Mexican, strict, you know, you don't talk back and get slapped, and, you know, like, they have mechanic hands, you know, like those guys.
They might as well be guns themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. They're massive hands. You put them next to, like, how do you have muscles on your fingers, man? Like, you know, so I had those kind of older folks that I had respect for, but nobody that lived the life that I wanted or did things that I want to know.
It's very impressive, brother. Honestly, it's very hard because I know a lot of young men who didn't grow up with a father, and honestly, man, struggling.
Yeah.
So to kind of see you do the opposite of that, it's inspiring, honestly.
Thank you.
Really, because I bump into a lot of people who deal with that, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, you said it. We're not supposed to be here, you know. Me and my two brothers, we're probably the most unqualified. The words that we're not supposed to be any out of my entire family or overall. We're the ones that we're not supposed to be winning. We're not supposed to be taking care of. My brothers are not supposed to be married and having a beautiful family and having their own. They're not supposed to. But I think the things that my mom did teach us, the morals, the principles, the values, and a lot of had to do also with church. She would take us to church when we were little. I think one of the things that we're missing here in America today, I think, is we don't go to church that often, and we don't take our kids. And some people, man, I don't need church. Well, that's totally fine, but it does take a village to raise a kid. It takes an environment. And so growing up, my mom was super strict. Yeah, she was
Yeah,
interesting.
my dad was a pastor, and my mom was a lead singer.
Oh, there you go. You know what I'm talking about. So
Yeah,
your dad
yeah.
was strict. You got to see that. I think he was strict.
When you were young, you get mad about it,
Oh,
but when you get older,
100%.
you're appreciative of it.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you try to, or maybe you don't slam the door because then it would be worse. But you want to slam the door. You want to like run away, right? I tried to running away when I was a little kid. I'm like, I'm gonna run away. Wait, where am I going? Yeah, you don't like it. Absolutely, you hate it. But now that we're older, we're like, that's what it was about.
Yeah.
That's what it was about. And all three of us, not just me, my brothers are great fathers, great husbands. They do their job great, and I'm very proud of them. Like they're amazing men, and I consider myself to be an amazing man as well. But I think I know it has a lot to do with the way that my mom raised us, and things like that.
And something that we were talking about off air, the responsibility of when we get older. And then the way you said it, the way you articulated it, I've never heard it in that way. And it kind of intrigued me. So I look forward to getting older. And I also said to you as well that I do feel the responsibility getting heavier as I get older. And you were saying that a little bit as well. Can you go into more detail?
Yeah, man. We're getting deep, dude. All right. So, we're getting older, and as many can see, I'm pretty young. I guess you could say it's the beer that makes me look older. No, but on a serious note, we're getting older, and so as we're approaching those years, one of the things that I remember being like 19, 20 years old, I'm like, hey, by this time I want to have this. I want to be worth this. Like at 18, I was already talking that with 19. I want to be worth this. I want to have much of this savings. I want to drive this. And by this age, and so as I'm getting closer to the bigger responsibility, as far as my goals and dreams, I'm like, oh shoot, like it's around the corner. I can no longer say it's 5 years away, 7 years away, because when you put long-term goals, you're like, it's kind of like like a cop out, I guess you could say, because it's like, oh, it's far away. I got time.
I can chill.
I can chill. People, like when you're 19, 20 years old, you're thinking that way. Oh, I can party. I'm good. I don't have to think like you're closer to 25 than you believe. Like it's gonna be here very, very fast.
Yeah.
It's gonna fly. And I remember when people would tell me that, I'm like, I think you're just saying old things, but no, it goes by fast. But as I'm getting older, I want to start having kids anytime now, and I have a certain goal financially, savings. By the time that I start having kids, I want to do that for my kids, right? Because I don't want to stress financially. I don't want them to see that. I'm gonna teach them, hey, get your job. You're gonna pay for your things. I'm gonna teach them but I want to give them a great life when they're little. And I want to give my lady a great life as well, a support system. Yeah. I don't want her to be cleaning the house when she's taking care of my kids. I want to hire somebody to do that.
Yeah.
If she don't want to cook because she's taking care of the kids, I want to have a chef that can meal prep us healthy, super healthy stuff. Somebody that specializes. Somebody that specializes on healthy food, and so. I want to have that support system as we're getting older. I feel that pressure because we're around the corner now. We're arriving at those ages that we said we were going to do this and that at that age. And, of course, I want to give a great life to my kids, to my lady, and the clock is ticking.
That is a lot of pressure. It really is. But honestly, I feel like we embrace that because pressure builds diamonds.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
100%.
It's like, it's very, very necessary.
Yeah.
The harder, the more, I would say, the more difficulty, the more struggle it is, it's like, I'll smile at it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're smiling as we're thinking about it. Yeah, absolutely. I like the analogy, right? The diamonds. My lady loves diamonds, right? I know a little bit about diamonds after getting her some. But pressure does make diamonds, and pressure makes us as well. And it's also good to be accountable to an environment, to a group of people, like friends. Like, let's say, for an example, your associate is good because that gives you kind of pressure. Like I'm gonna say this, so I hear a lot of people say, I'm gonna think my goals and dreams, I'm not gonna share, I'm gonna keep them quiet, move in silence. okay, cool.
Execute in silence.
Yeah, execute in silence. I'm gonna do everything in silence. Well, that's awesome. But I think when you say them out loud, not only do you put it out to God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, not only are you claiming it, like, hey, I'm gonna do this. Now that's pressure when you say it out loud.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna become a financially successful by this age, and everybody hears it. You're like, oh, I gotta do it now. I just told my lady. I just told my kids. I just told my brothers. That's pressure. And when you're like, no, I'm gonna keep it to myself. My lady doesn't have, my family, the people, the internet don't have to know. You just kind of, you don't want that pressure. And maybe you have a different philosophy, but I think a lot has to do with not wanting that pressure. But you should have that kind of pressure because it makes you better. It pushes you to, sure, I could sleep in today. It's Saturday morning. It's Sunday morning, or it's Saturday, Sunday afternoon. I could just chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you said this and this and this. So when are you gonna start working towards that?
Yeah.
So I love pressure. I welcome it. I welcome stress as well. Certain type of good stress, right? I like it. I feel it gives me the adrenaline. It keeps me on my toes.
And I make sure I always let my family know when something is on my mind, it's an idea. And then sometimes eyes will roll oh, there goes Daniel again, just talking mess. But I can honestly say proudly, everything that I said out loud came true.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So
It's a beautiful thing.
I remember, bro, being a kid. Me and my cousins were watching UFC fights as a kid.
Yeah.
And I was telling them, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that one day. And they're like, you don't even know how to fight. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then let it be known, became the first professional athlete in the family.
There you go.
So, bro, honestly, saying it out loud, it's
thing.
different, man. So I advocate on that, but I understand the whole executing in silence. But me personally, I've seen the rewards from it, from saying it out loud.
Absolutely.
Even to you, bro, I have no problem speaking my goals in front of you because I'm just meeting you today.
Yeah.
But honestly, this interaction, it feels man, it's just I'm talking to a brother of mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It just feels so natural and raw, bro. So yeah, I have no problem saying it out loud to anybody. You know what I mean?
It's a great thing to say it out loud, man. It not only are you letting them know and putting that pressure, they'll keep you accountable. You saying it is going to keep you accountable because they know. But also is you're having confidence when you say it. When you're saying it, you're confident about it. You believe in it. And maybe sometimes you don't. You're like, oh, shoot, I don't know if I should say it. Yeah. But because you said it, now you have to come through.
Yeah.
Or you can, not come through on your word. But people that like us, we value our word.
Yeah.
Can you cash in our word? If you say you're going to do something, can you take it to the bank? Or is it going to bounce back? It's for real. What you're saying, can I cash it out?
Yeah. So
you
true.
said you're going to go to the gym in the morning. Can I cash that out? Or is it going to bounce back because you were too tired? Because you woke up late? I don't know. What all the reasons. So, those little things, even saying the little things, it matters, man. It builds you confidence. And when you achieve it and you look at your family sees you and they watch you fight and they're, in the arena or whatever the case is, and you're in there and then you win and all these memories start coming to you. You're like, I said it. I went through it. I worked for it. I earned it. It feels great, man. It's like a natural high. It's a natural high.
It's our way of getting high.
It is. Absolutely. It's our way of getting high of life. You could do that. You could get high over your own things that you create, your own chemicals. What are they called?
Absolutely.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, bro. And honestly, one thing that I also wanted to speak about because there's that term out there that says every king needs his queen.
Yeah.
And it's very rare, especially in this day and age, bro, when a man is chasing success, when a man is an entrepreneur, they always say it is very difficult to him to settle down, to find that person and to keep him still.
Yeah.
And you did.
The great thing about me and my lady is that I found her at a young age, and at that age, I don't know if she was the one or not, because I was just having fun and working. And so I didn't know, but as I try to fight it, no, I don't think so. As I try to fight it, it kept coming back to me, or she kept coming, not necessarily her coming back to me, but the world, the universe, whatever you want to call it, would get us back. So I'm like, why am I fighting it? This is what it is. And, but you have to set your expectations at the beginning, man. You have to, and sometimes you're not sure, if she's the one or not. And that's okay. That's okay. Set the expectations up front. One of the things I did with her. I'm like, hey, like I'm not trading anything for my goals and dreams. I'm not trading anything. Like my goals and dreams come first. Because at that age, I was relentless. I was ruthless. Like with my words, I'm like, this is my priority right now, and I'm gonna make it happen. You come with me or you don't. You want to do it, and you want to do this. Yeah. And along the way, we started modifying the way we spoke to each other, of course, and we started blending our vision together. But you had to find somebody that's ambitious as well, somebody that dreams big. If you're like want to get into business and you have big goals, big dreams, you better have the right individual next to you, the right people talking to you. Like when I tell her anything, she tells me, "You can do it," and I'm like, "Sure." Like I don't even know if I can do it, and you're giving me that confidence. It's a beautiful thing, man. And she gives me confidence. She pours into me. It's important to find one, and sometimes find one. It's important to find the right one at some point. But if you're young and you're in your 20s, 21, 22, 19, 18, grind it out, man, and you'll find her. Yeah. When you're focused on yourself and you become the right person, you will attract the right person. Like that's a lot of the times they're like, I can't find the right one. Well, that's because you're not the right one either. Here you are partying every weekend, and you want a husband? Well, I'm sorry, it's gonna get controversial, but hey,
go off.
But that's the reality. Do husbands want somebody partying every weekend? Probably not. Would you want your husband partying every weekend? Probably not. You want him put away, working on his goals, his dreams, focus, locked in, what they call it now, locked in, right? And so if you work on yourself and you work on your goals and dreams and you become that, as you're doing that, you're going to become the right person because it's going to shape you just like entrepreneurship shapes you. Either it takes you out or it shapes you, right? Because a lot of businesses go bankrupt within the first 5 years. Like most people get out of the field or the work in the first 5 years because they're like, no, this is not for me. This is too much, And so it's going to make you. Entrepreneurship is going to make you for sure. It's going to mold you and the process and everything. So as you're becoming the right person, you're going to attract the right person at that point. Then you should lock in that queen. You should lock in that queen, right? But I'm grateful and I'm thankful that I found her at a young age, even though I wasn't sure if she was the one, right? Like, I'm like, I'm young. I have so many distractions, I'm like, I don't know, you know? And another thing is that I didn't have great role models in my life as far as relationships. How can I see myself settling down or having a successful marriage when, I'm not going to say out loud, but you get what I'm saying is I didn't have that relationship role model.
Earlier you were talking about how most businesses go bankrupt, how people just entrepreneurship makes you, business makes you. Lows make you as well. So I would want to talk about your specific low and how did you bounce back from that? Because usually when people hit the low, they just want to completely stop, but you didn't.
Yeah, man. It's entrepreneurship, and there's the lows and the highs, and the low lows and the highs, right? But there's a lot more lows at the beginning than there's highs. You're gonna get your butt kicked the first year, and if you don't, shoot, you're special. You're perfect, man. But most people get they get their business handed to them, and it's not a beautiful thing the first year because you gotta work. Like business entrepreneurship will expose you, all your weaknesses. Oh, you're not great at talking to people. Here's your weakness. Oh, you're not patient. Here's another weakness. Oh, you don't care for people. That's another weakness. Because in business and sales, you got to care for people. All the bad ones are the ones that we hear about, and they're the ones that eventually don't make it, or eventually got out of the business, or nobody wants to do business with them because everybody found out about those bad apples. So business will make you. My lows, I'll tell you, I've been to the points in my career when I was transitioning from buying and selling cars to this. I had to learn this, of course, right? And there was points where I went to sleep hungry because I'm like, shoot, there's no money in my bank account, like I don't know how I'm gonna figure this out. And of course, it always worked out because that's how God works. And so another thing is, I would tell you, if on your lows, if you're not close to God, get close with God. He's gonna be the one that pulls you out. He either goes into the fire with you or he takes you out. And so I think my whole career, my everything any type of success that I had is because of God. If I wouldn't have borrowed strength, if I wouldn't have got strength from God, I would have probably worked at JCPenney still, because at some point I worked at JCPenney. And by the way,
I bought a lot of good stuff from there.
There you go. By the way, I got fired from Subway. Fun fact, I got fired from Subway my first 2 weeks working there because I was in probation. I had to, so they said, hey, you had to memorize the sandwiches. And I'm like, memorize?
Isn't it just lettuce and tomatoes?
Right? Like, I'm like, I was not good in school. Like, look at my grades and memorize. And so I didn't really put much effort into memorizing anything. Next thing you know, 2 weeks come by, I get fired because I don't memorize anything. That was fun. But yeah, where was I at? I lost my
honestly, brother, going back to that too, because I faced this as well. I was terrible at school. I honestly got transferred to a continuation school where you have to make up your credits in order to graduate at the same year as your class. That was very embarrassing for me. Back then, I was like, I don't care. I don't care about school, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. But thinking about it now, I'm like, that's kind of embarrassing. I made myself like a fool in high school and not doing any work at all and actually avoiding it purposely. Like, honestly, just going to class to like mess around and like see my friends. That's literally why I went to school. That's it, just to hang out. And I got nervous venturing off into the entrepreneur world because I was like, I think I'm dumb. You know what I mean? Because at school, I couldn't process things. I really, really couldn't. So I was like, how am I going to be able to process financial literacy? How am I going to process business? How am I going to process leadership? All these principles that you need to build something great. How am I going to be able to mold something great? I don't know. So, but that honestly took obsession. Like, you need to be obsessed, because still to this day, I do not process things very well. I don't. But in order for me to do so, I have to be obsessed with it. If I'm not interested in it, I'm just kind of like, okay, whatever. But if it's something that catches my interest and something I'm curious about, I'm like, oh, okay, let me do a little deep dive, and I'll go crazy about it. That's why I'm scared to like learn a guitar or anything like that, because it's like, it's over. I'm going to be a...
So you have the obsessive personality.
Yes.
I do too. I do too, man. I gotta be careful what I get into, because I have that obsessive personality. So yeah, I mean, in school, I wasn't great either. I had a very similar story. I didn't think I had to go to a continuation. I had to do 7th period. They had a 7th period. Like, there was 6 period, like 6 classes. You had to take you had to stay after school to take another class to make up the credits, right? That was me. I didn't have that great of time in school when it come down to classes. So I was nervous getting into entrepreneurship, especially for the life insurance license. And I had to study. I had to pass that exam. How much do I have to take? Like, how many questions, right? So I was nervous taking that. But by the way, I want to go back a little bit to my lows that you mentioned. One of my lows, I remember, I was at the point where I had just got COVID. My business went down, like my sales, I guess you could say, because I got COVID. And prior to that, they weren't even great either, And so I was at a point where during that COVID, it was a really bad, like, it hit me really bad, where I couldn't even open my eyes because I would get pain, like headaches. And so I had to literally be resting for the 2 weeks. And so that took a toll on my routine of going to the gym. And going to the gym for me in the mornings is like crucial, because that's where I start my morning. I started with confidence because I'm beating the weights or whatever the case. I'm maxing, whatever the case is, doing one more. And so it gives you a lot of confidence. Anyway, so for 2 weeks I couldn't. So I went from daily to nothing. Not even calling the team or calling the clients, nothing. Showing up to no, you had to quarantine for 14 days, whatever it was. And so I was mentally, that took also a toll on me. Like, I'm like, shoot, can I really do this? I started questioning everything. And I'm like, so business wise, I wasn't winning. COVID health wise, I wasn't winning. I was resting. Fitness wise, I was losing. And so at that point, when I recover, I'm like, I had to do something, man. I don't know what I have to do, but I gotta pull something off, man. I'm like, I'm at the point where either I quit and go get a job or I make this happen. And so I went to a training, and one of the guys, one of my good friends, mentors, he talked about this one strategy of generating more clients. I said, you know what? I don't know if this is gonna work, but let me give it a shot. And that's the importance also of advice and implementation. How fast can you implement that advice? Because a lot of times, like you'll hear this podcast or any type of podcast, and they'll say key things, but then you never apply it. Yeah. So then you're just wasting time, energy, you're supposed to implement. And so he said it, and then I implemented it right away, probably like within 2-3 days. And by the way, nobody else in our that class implemented it. And so it was funny because they put me as an example. This guy implemented it. And so what I did, I started making a bunch of phone calls, and I got rejected for like 3 days straight. I'm like, man, this doesn't work, man. Like, what's up with that McDonald's job? Like that McDonald's job seems okay now. I'm just kidding, no. But I'm like, shoot, like I was frustrated. I'm like, what do I do? Next thing you know, day 4, day 5, appointments start. Like I start booking a bunch of appointments. Next thing you know, the next week and a half, I did it within a week and a half with just making phone calls. I generated over $30,000 in commissions. The next month, I think it was November, I generated my first like $20,000 a month. And I'm like, finally. It took a lot of praying. It took consistency, of course. It took not giving up, like playing your mind. Like your mind tries to play you tricks. Nope. Let me suffocate, or let me overfund, or whatever you want to call it, with positive thoughts. No, I can do it. I'm way too good to be at this position. I'm qualified for this. I deserve to win. Like, does that make sense? So you start self-talk, all that self-talk. And that's what I had to do, a lot of that on my lows. I had to talk to God a lot on my low. So,
did you have to eliminate a lot of people on the process, throughout the journey?
Of course, 100%. As bad as it sounds, I mean, nobody wants to get rid of their friends and family, right? But and you don't have to necessarily eliminate like your family. Sometimes like you can eliminate certain individuals. Of course, some people might say, of course you can. Then go for it. If you want to do that, go for it. But in my case, I couldn't eliminate my family. Of course, I did reduce a lot the time that I spent with them. Not because I don't love them or anything. It's because of the things that the conversations. I was in a position where I'm like, I either survive or I die. And anything outside of that, if it's not serving my survival, then I have to cut it off. Yeah. I had to limit it right now. Right now, I had to limit it. And so at that point in my life, and I'm talking about 18, 19 years old, I had these realizations. I'm like, the conversations over here with my family, and some of them, like, there was a lot of doubt. Like, why are you doing that? Why did you start that? Why don't you go over here? That company's a lot bigger. Why don't you do this? That's not a real business. Like, all kind of, like, you name it, like I heard it from my family. And so I'm like, you know what? The volume in this microphone of my family is pretty high right now. Let me minimize the microphone. And how did I minimize it? By the time that I spent with them, I minimized it, maybe to a 5, 10, right? So I minimized it. And then my friends kind of the same thing. Why are you doing that? Oh, all of a sudden, we were just partying last week. All of a sudden, right? Like, oh, you're a different man now? I'm like, I came to a realization I want to improve. It dawned on me, like, what am I doing partying when I'm living paycheck to paycheck? What am I doing taking a shot when my family's in Mexico maybe needs us financially? Or like in most cases, what are you doing partying if your parents are waking up at 5, 6 in the morning to clock in for a job? Like, what are you doing? What are you celebrating? One of my good friends said that when I was like 18, I'm like, oh shoot, what am I celebrating? What are all these people that I'm partying with? What are they celebrating? That is true. Yeah. Your mom is waking up at 5, 6 in the morning to go to the field back in Central Valley. Most people work in the fields, picking grapes and all the types of work in the fields. And so it made me realize that. And so at that time, 18, 19, I had friends doing all kinds of, you know, mind altercation, consuming things, right? Like you name it. I had all types of friends, all kinds of type of drugs, like they were available at that age, and my friends were doing them. And my best friend, he was in that circle, and I was, because my best friend was in that circle. Of course, I was as well. And so I said, "Hey, best friend, um, I had this realization. This is what I want to do. You know what? I don't want to party no more. Like, I don't want to hang out and like just party for nothing. Like I want to hang out with you. You're my boy. But hey, how about we go in and achieve this? How about we do this? How about we go and financially win for a family? And so that conversation didn't go that well with him. He's like, nah, all of a sudden, you know. And I'm like, shoot, man. And so I had to, the things that they were saying and my time with them, I had to minimize it. And because of that, I was able to focus my energy on one thing, which was surviving, making it happen, becoming successful, whatever that case is. And you have to do that. At some point in your career, you have to do that. Yeah. It's crucial. It's crucial. Yes, I love my family. Yes, I love them 100%. They love me. I know that, right? But sometimes you do have to minimize the voices. Yeah. And how do you do that? Spend less time with them. You can't change their mind overnight. You can't change the things that they're saying to you overnight. They're seeing they're seeing who you want to become, or they're not seeing who you want to become. You're seeing who you want to become. They don't see that yet. They see the yesterday you. They see the drunk you. They see the one that was smoking weed 2 nights ago, you know? What do you mean you want to become successful? Bro, he was just smoking weed last weekend, you know? Mm-hmm. No, but I heard of this thing. I think this is what I want to do. Bro, stop it. Stop it. Come drink with me. Nice. You know, let's go out tonight. That's how it went. Yeah. So you do have to minimize them, especially if your environment is not that great. If you have a support system, what are you minimizing for? If everybody's, yeah, go do it. Hey, I want to be a superstar. Go do it, Johnny. Then great. If that's the environment you're in, then there's no need for it. But if the environment is like the one I was in, where everybody was negative and everybody was distracting me, then you have to.
Yeah. And you said the word success a lot during that time, and it takes a lot of sacrifice to obviously be successful. There are many definitions to success, but for you personally, how would you define success?
Great question, man. To me, success is anybody that, let's talk about somebody that just graduated and wants to become a police officer. By the way, when I graduated, I was computer, the career day, whatever it was called. I'm like, sure, you're telling me today I have to figure out what I want to do for the rest of my life? I'm like, well, I saw cops in the movies. Let me see how much they make, right? And so I started researching. Anyways, but success is anybody that wants to achieve something and does it. That's success. The person that, hey, I want to become a teacher, and she does it. The person, hey, I want to become a successful entrepreneur, and he does it. That to me is success. You know, I want to have a great marriage. I want to raise great kids, and they do, and that's success. So to me, is anybody that works towards their goals and dreams, whatever they are. Yeah. Doesn't have to be financially successful. You don't have to be worth $1 trillion to be successful. No, success is whatever you want to achieve, and if you're happy with that, great, man. Yeah, that's what it means to me.
Brother, I have 2 more questions for you. All right, brother. If this was your podcast personally, High Value Discussions hosted by Alonso, and if there was one question that you wanted to ask me, what would it be?
What's an advice? So the question I would ask you, what would be your advice to somebody starting entrepreneurship? You're 18, 19 years old. What is the 1 or 2 advice that you would say, hey, make sure you do this and this, and you'll be okay. You'll figure out the rest.
I think be prepared to lose a lot. I think be prepared to get punched in the face a lot. Yeah. Because they're gonna come. It's not sunshine and rainbows like how they make it seem on Instagram. It's really not. I think you need to build yourself mentally before you enter into that space of entrepreneurship. Luckily, in my past field as a professional fighter, that is the ultimate sign of resiliency, because you have somebody across you trying to kill you. So luckily, I kind of had that going forward when I entered entrepreneurship, where it was like, okay, I have that mental resiliency, but there's still hiccups that come. they're still, dang, man, I had to solve this. Oh my God, I don't want to do this. It's so annoying, but I got to do it anyways. Yeah. But honestly, like one of the biggest things that I would say is just be prepared to lose, but honestly, stay the course and don't lose track and do not deviate. Because honestly, brother, I am so curious on what happens when I don't stop. I am very, very curious. And I can't wait to be a part of that story, because you hear about these stories all the time about these people doing great things and they just never took a day off and then they saw the fruits of it. Yeah. So I can't wait for that story of mine to come out when I just didn't stop. Yeah. That's it.
That's beautiful, man. Hey, that's great. Shoot. I 100% would say the same thing. Hey, man, just be ready to, receive some punches and don't quit, man. Yes. Absolutely. I love how you put it together. Yeah. Just expect that it's part of the process. Yeah. Beautiful, man.
Brother, my very last question. Honestly, man, I hope we do this again, my man, because you are like two espresso shots. You woke me up.
Thank you. Yeah.
My brother, so my last question, I would like you to pass on the listeners a piece of wisdom. You kind of asked me of what to pass on to entrepreneurs and business owners, etc. What would you pass on to anybody when it comes to overall life? What's that one piece of wisdom?
Oh, man, like that. That deep. Okay. I heard my pastor say this, and I want to invite you to next Sunday to come. But I love this church because there's so much wisdom on how they explain it, right? And so one of the things that I learned is just because it's okay, it doesn't mean that it's for you. Just because it's okay to go to that party or do certain things doesn't mean it's for you. If it's not serving you, then don't do it, man. If it's not serving your purpose, your vision, your goals, your family, your health, go for it, man. And so just because it's okay, it doesn't mean that you should do it. That's what I would say, man. That comes with a lot, distractions, etc. Right? So just because it's okay, doesn't mean you should do it.
Beautiful. My brother, are there any closing statements you'd like to give for the podcast?
Yeah, man. Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, man. It's it's awesome that somebody like you is doing this, because I believe, there's a lot of podcasts out there, and, I don't want to say
fluff,
but it's just like, what a waste of a podcast.
What a waste of my breath. You know
Absolutely,
what I mean?
Man. And so I'm so glad that there's great podcasts like this, putting amazing value to the community, to everybody, so they can improve on their lives. For my people out here watching it, save yourself some time and watch this podcast, not just this one, but this channel, so you can get wisdom, you can get ahead, you can learn things to improve your business, your life, your personal life. I heard many of your podcasts, and there's a lot of value in it, a lot of wisdom as well. And so great job for what you're doing. I applaud you for that. Keep doing it. Whatever you guys need from me, I'm here to help as well. And keep doing what you're doing, man.
Absolutely, brother. Well, speaking of this title of value, and you brought value to the table, my brother. Honestly, this is the first time we met, but bro, it feels like I've known you for 10 plus years, my brother. Absolutely. It's a blessing to know you, my brother. Thank you for being on the show. God bless you, my brother.
God bless you guys. God bless you. Thank you, bro.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode. If you got a lot of value out of this, please do me a favor and support our channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Make sure to hit that follow button on Spotify to stay updated with our latest episodes. And if you are listening on Apple Podcast, I would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star rating, followed by with a review. Again, thank you all for the support. Stay loving, stay hungry, stay excellent.